Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the serious show that delves inside the trillion-dollar sports business. We turned the pages from 2016, an incredible year. We talked about some of the biggest issues there in all major sports. 2017, who knows, but 17 big issues. We don't have time to go through all of them, but the shows over the next few weeks certainly will. Number 11, gender equity in each sport. The Women in Tech Championship presented by Guggenheim and Guggenheim Life will help urban training, STEM, robotics, and the like. More to come. Number 10, disruptive innovation, a buzzword in business, mergers, and venture funding. Number 9, Players Tribune, Unscripted, Slice, and others developing their own reach, media significance, and exclusive content. Number 8, big data, econometrics, new ways to measure. Number 7, esports, 40% growth, avid fan base of over 150 million. Need I say more? Number 6, 2017, the follow-up from the Drought Busters. Leicester City, the Cavaliers, the Cubs. Do they win again? Well, they win in the boardroom and at the merchandise table, even if they don't win on the field. Number 5, NHL and its 100th anniversary. First year in Vegas. Got to solve problems in Phoenix, South Florida, and the like. Number 4, the Raiders situation changes daily, and the Chargers and San Diego. Those issues will be resolved this year one way or another. Number 3, the 18-17 season. StubHub, the first company dealing with jerseys and patches with the Sixers. Others following suit in the NBA and maybe beyond. Number 2, television, cord cutting, new ways to measure, more people watching. You just got to find out how. And number 1, September looms as the referendum on the U.S. by the IOC. September 13 in Lima, Peru. Look for the 2024 announcement of the U.S. A very low-risk selection for the IOC, largely because facilities are done. That's 1 to 17. Wait for our show. Great interviews, good insight. Really excited about this year, even more than ever. Rick Horrow, sports professor, Beyond the Scoreboard. See you in a couple of minutes.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number.
Call 877-499-MY-TV.
The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money.
Call 877-499-MY-TV.
Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $24.99. And there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $24.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card.
Call 877-499-MY-TV. That's 877-499-MY-TV.
Cancel the cable. Cut costs and get more.
Call now. 877-499-MY-TV. That's 877-499-MY-TV.
Rebuild or replace transmission, $3,200. Anti-lock brake system, $1,000. Rebuild or replace engine, $2,400. Truth is, once your manufacturer's warranty runs out, it's all on you. Every last cent. Get protection for covered repairs with a vehicle service contract from Toco Warranty. Unlike other companies, with Toco, there's no down payment, and the monthly payments are really affordable. Not sure how long you're keeping your car? At Toco, you can pay as you go. Keep your hard-earned cash and call Toco Warranty right now at 800-222-2313 to save big money on covered auto repairs. Prices vary by vehicle, but for about the cost of a tank of gas per month, a Toco plan has your back on expensive covered car repairs. Monthly payments are very affordable. Get your free quote now. Call Toco at 800-222-2313. That's 800-222-2313. 800-222-2313. Cancellation fee may apply. Subject to eligibility. Not available in Missouri and Washington. Waiting period and deductible apply. Coverage provided and administered by Warrantech Corporation or its affiliates. Not affiliated with any manufacturer or dealership. Visit TocoWarranty.com for complete terms and conditions.
Blood pressure tends to run higher during the day and lower during nighttime sleep. However, many people with high blood pressure don't exhibit this nighttime dip, a condition called non-dipping. More in today's AARP health tip after this.
Are you paying too much for your Medicare Part D prescriptions? At Walgreens, that's a question you won't have to ask. As a preferred pharmacy with many of the nation's top plans, Walgreens offers copays now as low as $0 on select plans. Millions of people have Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy in their network, which means you could be saving big. So switch your prescriptions and start saving today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Applies to Tier 1 generics.
Non-dipping is a major risk factor for stroke, heart attack, and kidney disease. But studies show taking one or more of your prescribed blood pressure medications just before bedtime significantly decreases the risk. Of course, never change the timing of your medications without first consulting your doctor. For more, go to aarp.org.
Sports professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, primarily themed around college football and then getting back into pitchers and catchers close to reporting. From the college football perspective, 41 bowls, some successful, some not, all positive slants. The AAC is the focus of our focus today. We'll have two of their officials. One of them ran the Miami Beach Bowl. His name is Scott Draper. He's the Associate Commissioner of the AAC. He joined the American after serving as the Associate Director of Athletics and Director of Development at Albion College. He was there since 2011, Assistant AD at the University of Michigan. You know how successful they'd been. Football Offensive Graduate Assistant and Video Coordinator at the University of Michigan. Interesting season. He runs and ran the Miami Beach Bowl that the AAC owns. Some perspective about the bowl season and what it means to some of these smaller bowls with Scott Draper. Give us some perspective about the ownership structure of the Miami Beach Bowl.
Yeah, so 3 years ago, when the American became the American and left the Big East, our Commissioner Mike Oresco wanted to start a bowl game just to be able to provide opportunities for our student athletes. So they, prior to me taking over my responsibility, they came down here and found a great partner in the Miami Marlins. Of course, we're here tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me, for the Miami Beach Bowl in Marlins Park. And so we've had a great opportunity to create an experience for our student athletes. What we've done in the American is try to use our bowl opportunities to grow our league. To give our student athletes an opportunity to have a bowl experience that they can point to in the off season that helps them get better. And that's one of the really big aspects of the bowl season that we in the American utilize all of our bowl tie-ins because we have great locations in Boca and Miami and St. Petersburg and the Bahamas, et cetera, Hawaii. So we think that the bowl opportunity for us, in addition to the additional practice and the development of the players, is the experience itself for our kids to be able to point to something in the off season to maybe work a little harder, another rep, another whatever it might be to get better for our season. So that helps our league get better.
Scott Draper, he's the man in charge of the Miami Beach Bowl. And full disclosure, I grew up in Miami Beach, about 2 miles down the road on Toledo Island.
Isn't it?
It's a gorgeous place, but it's changed. And
Sure
so
has.
if you would have said, when I was growing up here many years ago, that there would be a bowl game at a place where there used to be a football stadium.
Right.
Oh, by the way, but now there's a baseball stadium with the Marlins. But by the way, it's a baseball stadium with a football configuration, would have been nuts. You did a great job pulling this off. Logistical challenges?
Yeah, there are some. Miami's a tough place to get around at times. Traffic is not great, but we have great partners with our city officials, with our police agencies that get our teams quickly from A to B. One of the things that we tell our teams when they come in, we can't control the weather and we can't control the traffic. And one of the things that we work really hard to try to do for our teams is to give them an experience based on one team's on the beach, one team's in the city. Their practice sites are close, so they don't have to go far. And our bowl events, one is on the beach and the other is here at the park. So we try to minimize that distraction for our teams, but this is a great venue. The Miami Marlins and their ownership group and their leadership group have done nothing but open their doors to us and created a great venue here in Marlins Park.
So, devil's advocate, not negative, just laying out some of the perceptions that people always have,
Sure.
and you need to answer them out of the box.
Sure.
You're one of 41 bowls.
Sure.
You're playing on a Monday afternoon where a lot of people are at work. Overshadow is the wrong word, but the Orange Bowl is here on a rotation to the national championship.
Sure.
You also got the Boca Bowl and others, and you're one of many ESPN games. So, and you don't have a sponsor. a title sponsor.
Right.
Other than that, everything is rosy. Now tell us how it works and why you're excited.
Well, we do have the Miami Beach is our
Fair.
presenting sponsor for our game, and
they provide cash.
They sure do,
Yeah,
and the residents and the leadership group and the leadership of Miami Beach are fantastic partners of ours. But we look at our bowl game as an opportunity, again, as like I mentioned, for our student athletes. We're one of 38 bowl games I think ESPN televises. Yeah. It's a tough, the Orange Bowl's on the 30th of December this year, so the calendar is not great for everybody. And so what I've told our team and our staff is we'll work real hard to get a better date, get a better time that may open doors to other places, but we're going to embrace the time slot we have and create a great opportunity for our student athletes and our fans that show up.
And it's a great argument because you shouldn't evaluate success at this bowl based on people who are in the stands or not in the stands.
Right.
It's 85 degrees, it's 38 below in Tulsa, it's 98 below in central Michigan.
I'm from Michigan, so it's at least 98 below zero.
Oh, my God. Like. Yeah, but by the way, so Scott Draper's negotiated a deal where he's at the AAC offices in Providence, but as the bowl president, he gets down here a lot, right?
Once a month. I have meetings.
Once a month he has meetings for 28 days, then he's back there for 3.
No doubt about it.
So the evaluation of success, which is a really important point, is a lot different than a traditional economic analysis, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you try to do the best you can, knowing that you were in it for the long haul. Our relationship with ESPN lasts through 2019. Same thing with the Marlins. So we'll evaluate the whole bowl opportunity and the enterprise for us at the end of our cycle. Year one, we had a great matchup, a great team, 2 great teams, double overtime game with Memphis and BYU. Last year, we had a Florida school in USF. Great crowd, Western Kentucky, great team.
What was the score, 83-82 or something
I think you're still trying to throw the ball right now.
That was a great game, by the way.
It was a great game. So, and again, we'll have 2 great teams today that will be an exciting game for those that are here and for those that are watching on TV. So you have to look at it over the long haul, not in isolation in each game, because there's a lot of things you can't control. Sometimes you can't pick the teams that come in your game, and you do the best you can with what you have. And I think all of us that are in the bowl business, and I'm speaking now from the bowl side, is that you do the best you can to create the best opportunity for the student athletes to have a great experience. If you start there and you build that as your foundation, you're only going to have success.
Does Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County, the political people, Florida tourism, do they get enough out of this bowl?
I think so. I think what we try to do, and you'll see it today at the game, is Miami Beach is well represented. Visually, both the mayor of the city of Miami is here doing the coin toss. The city of Miami Beach mayor is doing the trophy presentation. We have the Greater Miami CVB held their quarterly meeting here before the game is attending. So there are a lot of people that are supporting our game, and they feel like it's important for South Florida, for the Miami area, for Miami-Dade County, and we certainly are embracing that role as a partner in many of the other venues and sporting events that try to make their way down here.
As a guy growing up on Miami Beach and realizing how hard it was to live in the leather helmet days when the Dolphins were the only team down here, then we got the Heat, and then we got the Panthers and the Marlins and all of that, there is a presumption that you can't outjump your skis or whatever the metaphor is, and your expectations have to be realistic. And so if you positioned this as the biggest bowl game in history, it would be for life, I suspect. But you have a solid foundation of elements, and you're satisfied with where you are and what you're doing.
We always want to get better, and we're always going to strive to find a little bit better way to put on a bowl event, to generate more revenue, to get a better opportunity for our fans in our local market. But as I mentioned earlier, the foundation for us is about the folks that we're bringing to Miami from our schools. Tulsa's a long way away, so is Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And our conferences, that the American is kind of all over the country in our region. Mid-American Conference is Midwest. We partner with Conference USA. And so we're bringing schools and fans from other parts of the country that can experience Miami. And so if we can continue to showcase what is great about the Miami area, that's only going to help us as we continue to build. We're in this for the long haul. We're in this to make it a great experience for our fans and for our student athletes.
So finally, there is this 3-year cycle that everybody is clinging to for their own certainty in their life. Where do the niche bowls, minor bowls, whatever you want to call them, fit after 3 years? Give me your magic wand guess. What's going to happen?
Well, I hope they're all still around, because I think one of the things if I'm wearing my conference hat now, one of the things that we're concerned about on the conference side is making sure that all of our teams that become bowl eligible have a place to go. Because of the experience, because of all the things I mentioned earlier about practice and elevating your program and the exposure and an opportunity to get one more win and compete one more time. So there is a sweet spot.
Well, Scott has an interesting perspective about the bowl system. We'll talk baseball with Tommy Hutton, then come back to the bowls in a minute. Rick Horrow beyond the scoreboard. See you in a couple.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for prescription drugs? Well, we have great news. Now you can finally get prescription drugs at huge discounts from Canada Drug Center. That's right, the most popular drugs for cholesterol, high blood pressure, depression, diabetes, arthritis, and many more are now up to 75% off. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices when you can get brand name drugs at the lowest price? Call today and get up to 75% off all the popular brand name prescription drugs. Never pay high prices again. Get the most popular drugs at huge savings from our Canadian and international pharmacies and fulfillment centers. No insurance? No problem. Prices are so low you do not need benefits or insurance to get all your prescriptions fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting to take your call now. Order today and get free shipping. Just call 800-950-1180. Up to 75% off all the popular brand name prescription drugs and free shipping. Call 800-950-1180. That's 800-950-1180.
$100 million in jury verdicts and settlements for serious injury victims, medical malpractice victims, and surviving family members of wrongful death victims. Trial Lawyers for Justice. This is a firm that does not handle frivolous lawsuits. They go after insurance company money, and they're darn good at it. They don't sell their clients out or settle cheaply. Trial Lawyers for Justice, the firm that goes the distance for you, their client. They treat their clients the way you would want your own family members taken care of. Nicholas Rowley, Dominic Pachota, and the other trial lawyers in the firm at Trial Lawyers for Justice, dedicated to representing the people and their families in Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Illinois, California, Wyoming, and many other states. Trial Lawyers for Justice. $100 million in settlements and jury verdicts already in 2016. 888-811-0844. TL4J.com. Trial Lawyers for Justice.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now, 800-480-5708. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-480-5708. That's 800-480-5708. Again, 800-480-5708.
Well, we're in the middle of football, the Big Five, the playoffs, and the college national championships, then the NFL, 4 more games, then the Super Bowl after the NFC-AFC championship. NBA All-Star Game, NHL All-Star Game, and pitchers and catchers. That leads us to Tommy Hutton, good friend, former Major League Baseball player, and former color analyst, the face of the Marlins, FSN Florida Sun Sports for years. Motivational speaker, has a very interesting take on baseball. Here's Tommy Hutton.
Probably the best introduction I can come up with, and then we'll keep going. How's that for an intro?
You know, that's pretty good. Rick, I was wondering for a second who you were talking about, actually, at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I had to segue into you pretty quickly because everybody down in South Florida knows it's you. So you have a really interesting business message, not just a baseball message. Talk a bit about your career. You played for 37 years in the major leagues and had a batting average of just under the Mendoza line. Is that kind of correct?
No. Well, not
no.
quite 37, but I'll tell you what, the message I like to get out is the fact that I was pretty much a mediocre player. I wasn't big. I was 5'10". I was 175 pounds. I played a position where you were supposed to be 6'4" and hit a lot of home runs. And just with a lot of hard work, a lot of determination, I was able to hang in there for quite a while and have a 10.5-year major league career. I played 17. You mix in some minor leagues, but not too many people can say that, number one, for 50 years they were in a job that they absolutely loved, and secondly, I don't know of anyone who can say that a parking lot attendant was instrumental in starting their career. And I'll tell you the story. Tommy Lasorda was just beginning his career as a scout back in 1964. And he went into Dodger Stadium one day to park his car, and there was a kid who was the parking lot attendant, and he said, no, the scouts can't park here. This is for the executives. The scouts have to go over in that lot there. Well, Tommy, being persistent as he is, decided that he would park in this lot. And the young kid was a guy that I knew from high school. And so this kid said, I'll tell you what, I'll let you park in this lot if you promise to go see Tommy Hutton at South Pasadena High School play baseball this year. Well, as it turned out, he started watching me play high school baseball, and at the end of 1964, I signed a contract with the Dodgers to begin my professional career.
That's a great story, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody needs to take away that you need to find a friendly parking attendant and have that person advocate a job because you last in it for 50 years. And in all seriousness, one of the things that Tommy Hutton, he was the voice of the Marlins for how many years, by the way?
19 years I did Marlins baseball on TV.
All right. Well, that's one of the things. We'll talk about the transition. But, a hero in South Florida, voice of the Marlins, television, radio, basically came in with the expansion Marlins, went through 2 World Series, on and on. But one of the things about Tommy is that very goal-directed, very intense, and you don't have to be an all-star to be successful in business. And so maybe tell us a little bit about your playing career and when you decided that you needed to take the next step to figure out what life after baseball on the field would be like.
Well, that's a great story. I will tell you that, but just to segue into that, success consists of going from failure to failure without the loss of enthusiasm. Well, I think I had the enthusiasm. It turned out to be a little success. That was a quote, by the way, of Winston Churchill. I just thought I'd throw that in for you, Rick.
He did okay.
He did okay. Yeah. The interesting thing about my transition from being a player to broadcasting, one of the hardest things to do as a player is to admit that your career is winding down or that your career is over. You see a number of guys who play 2 or 3 years beyond where they really should. Nowadays they do it because they're making a lot of money. I don't blame them for that. But what I did in 1980, after the season ended, I kind of knew things were, even though I had a contract for the next year, kind of knew things were winding down. So in the off season of 1980, I sat down, and this was before you could send out emails and all that stuff, and I actually wrote letters. Remember what letters are? And
I don't remember letters, but I guess you do.
I wrote letters to each organization. I would pick I had a large book that had the executives and all that, and I would pick someone that I knew or maybe cross paths with, and I wrote letters basically saying, hi, my name is Tommy Hutton. I've played X amount of years. Someday when my career ends, I'd love to stay in the game. I would really love to be involved in broadcasting, blah, blah, blah. And I sent those letters to all the 30 teams. I probably got 6 or 7 responses, and at the time I was playing with the Montreal Expos. Well, in August of 81, the Expos released me. This is a sad story. I was taking batting practice, and my group had like 7 more swings. And John McHale, our general manager, called me off the field to come over and sit on the bench between him and Dick Williams, our manager. So in essence, I got cheated out of my last 7 swings as a player.
But wait, look at the Expos' position on that. They didn't want to waste 7 swings on somebody they were about to release.
That's exactly right. So Mr. McHale sat me down and he said, I know that you have an interest in broadcasting, and if you would like, you can remain with us the remainder of the season and help out on the radio. So I decided, let me think about it. My wife and I talked about it. I actually had a chance to go and play in Japan, but I just didn't want to get that far away from the major league scene because I thought maybe that would take me out of some opportunities. So they released me on a Sunday. I made the decision, and on Wednesday I actually worked a game on the radio. It was Philadelphia playing the Expos. It was in Philadelphia. So I was basically out of the game for 2 days. But I like to say those 2 days I was preparing for that Wednesday broadcast. So I was really never out of the game.
How natural was the transition for you? Did you feel like you were destined to do media?
You know, if I were to listen to some of the early broadcasts, I would go, oh, I can't believe I sound that bad. But I worked at it. I think the hardest, and I used to talk to a lot of young guys who were beginning in broadcasting, guys who had played, and I used to tell them the hardest thing I had was the first few years, especially with the Expos, because here I am up in the booth, and all the guys down on the field had been teammates, and that was hard because I wanted to become, when I set out to do broadcasting, I didn't want to be an ex-player who does color. I wanted to become a broadcaster. So I would learn to do play-by-play on games that I didn't work. I had a little tape player, and I'd sit up in an empty booth, and I kept score. I didn't even know how to keep score. I had to teach myself how to keep score, and I'd do play-by-play. So I wanted to become a complete broadcaster as opposed to just some ex-player who's up there doing color. And so I put a little work into it.
Well, and frankly, it's not surprising because you put a little work into everything you do. I remember some of the early days in broadcasting. By the way, I have leverage because I still have the tapes. Your debut at Sunshine in the Senior Professional Baseball League when you and, may he rest in peace, Gary Carter, cut your teeth on the championship when I was the president commissioner. Those were the good old days. What was that, mid-'80s? Late 80s?
Late 80s, I think. That was some fun, and to work with my good friend and yours as well, the late Gary Carter. We had a blast doing those games.
Yeah, clearly, and obviously honor to our really good friend. The business that you've been in, baseball generally, media specifically. Let's talk baseball. What are the biggest changes? Obviously, the players are making a lot of money. You know, you've reflected back on almost a half century of the game. What are the couple of biggest changes between, let's say, when you were playing and today?
I think some of the biggest changes are the way the game is played. You know, you see teams putting together bullpens of guys and really only expecting 5 or 6 innings out of a starting pitcher. I can look back, and my very first year as a player was in the California League in 1965, and one of our pitchers was Don Sutton. And Don Sutton, I look back at some of the box scores of those games in the California League. I want to say he completed just about every game he pitched. He got moved up to Double-A in mid to late June. He finished his first season in Double-A. And in that first year, Don Sutton threw 250 innings. And that would never happen today. I mean, they limit kids to 100 innings their first year, maybe 120. And so the way the game's played, most starting pitchers don't feel they need to complete a game because they have all these guys in the bullpen. That, to me, is one of the biggest changes. Athletes are still tremendous. If anything, I think they're better because they prepare more. They're bigger. They're stronger. I don't know if they adjust. They have to adjust because they face different pitchers, so they probably do that a little better too. But I think athletes are as good or better. And that's why it's hard to compare generation to generation because every generation was different. When
you look back at the young kids today, do you bitter is the wrong word, but are you saying, boy, I wish I was born 30 years later? Look at the dollars, look at the bank accounts. Do you say these kids have no respect for the game? Do you say these kids are pampered because they only throw 100 innings, not 200 innings? Do you say they're a bit more worldly than I ever was? What's your perception of today's current player?
Those are all very good points. I don't think you can generalize, because I think there are a lot of players who have a sense of history of the game, but I think there are many who don't.
Tommy Hutton gives us a perspective about what it means to retire from Major League Baseball and move on to the broadcast booth. Next up, more football. Mike Oresco. Be back in a couple of minutes. Rick Horrow.
And now, today's General Steel building tip. Buy a large lot with a friend or family member that can be split into two smaller lots. Some of the most appealing properties may be much larger than what you want or can afford. Yet the seller may not be willing to break up a large parcel. So if you can share the costs with someone else, preferably someone you don't mind having as a neighbor, you may be able to pick up a great building site for a reasonable price. And now, a word from General Steel.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-95-STEEL. 866-95-STEEL. That's 866-95-STEEL.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 877-663-7126 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 877-663-7126 to take your call now. Call 877-663-7126. That's 877-663-7126. Again, 877-663-7126.
Rebuild or replace transmission, $3,200. Anti-lock brake system, $1,000. Rebuild or replace engine, $2,400. Truth is, once your manufacturer's warranty runs out, it's all on you. Every last cent. Get protection for covered repairs with a vehicle service contract from Toco Warranty. Unlike other companies, with Toco, there's no down payment, and the monthly payments are really affordable. Not sure how long you're keeping your car? At Toco, you can pay as you go. Keep your hard-earned cash and call Toco Warranty right now at 800-222-2313 to save big money on covered auto repairs. Prices vary by vehicle, but for about the cost of a tank of gas per month, a Toco plan has your back on expensive covered car repairs. Monthly payments are very affordable. Get your free quote now. Call Toco at 800-222-2313. That's 800-222-2313. 800-222-2313. Cancellation fee may apply. Subject to eligibility. Not available in Missouri and Washington. Waiting period and deductible apply. Coverage provided and administered by Warrantech Corporation or its affiliates. Not affiliated with any manufacturer or dealership. Visit TocoWarranty.com for complete terms and conditions.
Beyond the scoreboard, again, the season for football, the season for bowls, right away, the biggest one of any, the national championship, but 40 came before it, and a few with the AAC in it, and basketball as well. Mike Oresco is the commissioner of the AAC, former television executive, EVP programming for CBS, started in TV with ESPN, responsible for acquisition of all ESPN sports properties, and he joined ESPN in 1984 as counsel, assistant general counsel in 88, and the programming department. An interesting perspective on college football, college basketball, and life. Mike Oresco.
Well, there was an overlap because I handled college sports for years at ESPN and CBS, so I knew all the players, I knew the issues. In that sense, I was well prepared for the job of commissioner. What it entailed, though, was a certain kind of leadership role that I hadn't had at the various networks. I was an independent contractor for many of those years, virtually. Yeah. I had my own sports. I handled them. Obviously, the people I worked for trusted me to do my work and didn't really meddle too much in what I did. But I never had a lot of people reporting to me, and it was a different kind of situation. But I've really taken to the job of commissioner because, one, I've gotten invested in the kids and in what we're doing. I've always enjoyed the issues of college sports. I love college sports. I love the competition. I had to deal with a lot of strange things when I took over, as you can imagine. Yeah. But I think it helped me, because you realize that you can overcome these kinds of things. There's an old saying, you don't want to be known as someone who is at his or her best when the going is easy. Yeah. That's not what you want to be. But in terms of just managing a larger group of people, we've got roughly 32, 33 people in our staff, and dealing with all of that, I've enjoyed it. I've embraced it. I really, but it took some getting used to in that sense.
Well, and the interesting thing is that you came in to a situation where you had to ramp up quickly to know what it was like to run a conference, but you also ramp up quickly because the environment changes and changed basically every day when you started. Describe those early days where it was conference musical chairs and you were hanging onto the chairs.
Yeah. First of all, I didn't anticipate that things would be quite that rocky. Yeah. I knew I was. In fact, I remember saying to the recruiter at the time, this job is fraught with risk because there's still going to be more conference realignment. Right. It appeared, Rick, that things had settled down. And then, as you know, the Big Ten took Rutgers and Maryland. Right. And then, of course, that led that the dominoes started falling, and suddenly Louisville's gone from our conference as well. So we lost Louisville and Rutgers. And then the Catholic Seven decided that they were tired of all the realignment. They'd gone through it for 3 years. I mean, it had been one thing after another. Before that, Pitt and Syracuse, BC. And they decided they wanted to play basketball. To make a long story short, it was a mess. And the reason it was a mess is because at that point then Boise wanted a special deal. Yeah. We said no. I said no. The presidents and ADs backed me up. I said you don't build a strong foundation if you're giving a particular school the right to do its own deals, the right to be completely independent, you're paying them more. It just didn't make sense. And that was a tough decision because at the time, Rick, people didn't think we had much in this league. A lot of the teams that have become very good in football now, particularly good back then, they were building programs. I thought I saw something that proved true. A commitment by the administrators. Temple didn't have that commitment 20 years ago. Right. Memphis didn't either. I saw a good group of young coaches that I thought would build programs. But Memphis was 3-9 back then. Temple was 2-10, whatever. But here's the position we were in. We had no TV deal, right, and we were in complete disarray. So at that point, when you're wounded, you get taken advantage of a bit.
And you came out of the TV industry, so you knew how bad it was.
Believe me, it was hard to get. Fortunately, I had some friends in the industry, but it was really hard to get anybody to talk to us. Second, we had to give up the name in order to get the money. We needed the money to keep our conference going. We knew we'd need more because we weren't going to get the kind of TV deal we wanted. So suddenly I woke up one day and said, we've got to find a new name, and it better be a decent name because, as you know, branding is very important. This wasn't a fluff thing. Yeah. I mean, if we had a name that people didn't resonate, and the American Athletic Conference turned out to be a good name. Yeah. But even the process had to be organized because it could have become a zoo. I remember an internet fellow who's not with us anymore came into me one day and said, why don't we just have a contest nationally? And I said, no, we're not going to lose control of this. Yeah. And so we finally narrowed the names down, but we didn't have a logo. Right. You need a good logo. We came up with a good logo. We didn't have a site for our basketball championships anymore because we had to give up the Garden to the Big East. It just made sense. Right. So we had to find, and then we had no bowl lineup because 3 or 4 bowls abandoned us. And said, we're weren't going to go to this conference or that conference. We also had the P5, Group of 5 divide that came into place. And I had to fight hard to get the automatic bid on New Year's Day, which has yielded one bid for us. A couple of times we've just missed, but at least it's there. Yeah. So we had a pretty. The fact is, if we hadn't gotten the TV deal done, Rick, the conference might not have made it.
Yeah.
Also, we had some dedicated presidents at SMU and other places who held the league together because there was talk that some of those schools might go to the Mountain West. Right. Had that happened, the league probably would have collapsed.
And you also have some good basketball leverage too.
We had some great basketball, but you know what? My feeling was I've got to project a calm. And I had to do it again this past 6 months. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to panic. We're just going to put our heads down, and we're going to take one thing at a time. We'll get the TV deal done. We'll find a name. We'll find a logo. And I said, look, this is a good group. And it was a good group. Yeah. We had good young ADs, good presidents, and I thought we could make it. And ultimately, the exposure we have now and the fact that we've got committed administrators, can't pay our coaches as much as the P5, but if we keep hiring young assistants who are really good, that's a pretty good formula. You know, I thought we could be successful. But it was essentially just... you know, I used to quote an old saying by Edward R. Murrow. He said, difficulty is an excuse history never accepts. And I just felt that, look, this is difficult. It's not going to be easy. I woke up in the morning, you know, pretty depressed during that period, thinking this is going to be, and when I say depressed, meaning this is going to be really, really hard. Yeah. But I felt that in the end, if we held it together, that I didn't know how far we'd go. I think we've probably gone further than everybody expected us to. But I thought we had a shot to be a force in college athletics.
Well, you are a force in college athletics, and frankly, it's you and a core of administrators who've stuck by you. And I guess it is an interesting dynamic when you view college administrators who are the bastion, in theory, of analysis and decision trees and knowing how to make reasoned, rational decisions. They're the first at the table to try to leapfrog everybody to be in that position of conference musical chairs a couple of years ago, at least. Make the quick decision, make it for us, and in a lot of cases, you guys held it together. In a lot of cases, it fell apart. Very difficult time for college football. Very difficult time for college sports.
It has been. Money's been driving so much.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And what worries me is the fight, the battle for the last dollar.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's as important as it is to have some camaraderie, to have some collegiality. And I'm not saying that in a Pollyannish way. I just think that I lament the destruction of regional conferences, which had a certain cultural cohesion.
You lament it, but look at your conference. I mean, it was a necessity, right? I guess you could argue if you wanted to measure it by miles distance, didn't do it, but you're probably one of the largest travel conferences out there. So necessity.
Probably not as geographically diverse compared to other conferences as we would have been, because the Big Ten now stretches from Nebraska to Rutgers. The Pac-12 goes all the way. You know, but. One thing that's interesting, Rick, that I knew we would have to do if we were going to be successful, we would have to create a unifying theme and a unifying thread for our conference. And I think we ultimately settled on a Challenger brand. Yeah. We're JetBlue. We're Southwest Airlines. We can't
both pretty darn good brands, brother.
Yeah. We can't do things, but they weren't Delta and they weren't American and United. We can't be the Big Ten or the SEC. We can't do things the way they do them. But I felt that if we said, look, we're a conference of opportunity, we're diverse. We had some names, thrown at us that weren't particularly flattering because we were diverse. But I felt that if we had a unifying theme, that this conference could thrive. I believed it. And the truth is, I'll give you an example. The very first game I attended when we reinvented the conference football game was Temple and Houston. Those two schools had nothing in common.
Right, of course.
And the Houston people, being in Philadelphia, you could just tell that, what are we doing here?
Right.
And the whole thing, the league had struggled, and they weren't very good. Both teams were not as good as they became. Temple wasn't very good at all. Well, within a few years, those two teams had a real rivalry. They're playing in our inaugural championship game in front of a full house of 42,000 people. ABC national game, and on the line was a New Year's Day bowl. either team, the winning team was going to go. Now think about that. Within just a few years, you went from that experience in Philadelphia to what that became. Now, granted, we are not the Big Ten with 150-year-old land-grant institutions that have played.
And shared television revenue from the top down, and a very interesting way to be harmonious. You'd be harmonious, too, if everybody came in with some kind of equal guarantee, basically.
The other thing this league has, Rick, that I recognized early on, and I think the league felt confident about, you've got some great markets. And you've got some, young, teams like USF and UCF that have incredible potential. You've got teams like East Carolina that never got the exposure. And by the way, we were lucky in some ways because ESPN had to match an offer we got from NBC, and it gave us exposure beyond our wildest imagination. Right. We had 4 ABC Nationals the last several years. Temple, Notre Dame in prime time. Right. Temple almost won that game. So I felt that we could build our brand if we played well and we improved week to week. Our attendance has improved. We're up 10% last year. I think we were up over that amount this year. We continue to build a fan base. Memphis never drew like they do now.
Right.
They'll actually fill the Liberty Bowl at times, and when they played Ole Miss and they played Navy at full houses, so that's another advantage I think that we have now. Now, we survived another potential bout of realignment this year, as you know, for 6 months. And it was a tough deal, but we faced it head on. The one thing we've never played games. We know who we are. We know the risks. We know that it's losing coaches, but we replace them with good coaches. Right. But we also know that realignment could rear its head at some point. I don't think it will now. I think the landscape is likely to stay stable. Okay. Again, I'm no prophet, but I think for the next 8 years it's likely to happen. But we realize that my feeling is let's face this head on. We've got good camaraderie in the league because I felt that whatever the schools were doing, they needed to do. Yeah. The P5 is the gold standard. The P5 is a benchmark. And we want to be a P6. That's our other branding campaign now. Okay. We competitively have almost at that level, if not reached it. Right. The issue for us is, of course, we don't have the TV deal they have. We don't have the access to bowls that they have. Right. There are some things we don't have. But we're getting closer to them, and the P6 campaign, I think, separates us from that other group of 5, the other 5 conferences. Right. And I felt that if we didn't separate ourselves, we would eventually fall backward. I think there are a couple of cross currents here. The cross currents are these, Rick. First of all, I don't know what's going to happen with the P5 in 6 or 8 years. The Big 12 is probably the linchpin there. You just don't know what's going to happen. Not much is going to change with the Big 10.
Well, they had a chance. Well, the Big 12 did. They had a chance.
You just don't know what's going to happen there. Second, I don't know that you're going to see 16-team conferences. Everybody thinks that you will eventually, that you'll have 4 or 5 of those. I'm not convinced that the conferences want to get that big. Yeah. But second, there's a new bowl cycle starting in 3 years. Right. It doesn't include the top bowls, though.
Mike Oresco gives us perspective, but we also have some perspective about other things as well. Bust, Boom, and Hope coming up. Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard. Be back in a couple of minutes.
We all know healthcare has changed drastically. It's quite the puzzle to sort through your options and find a health insurance plan that's affordable and maximizes your benefits. And you're now required by law to have health insurance, or you may pay a tax penalty. So let the Health Markets Insurance Agency help you. They offer plans from over 120 different companies and can even help you obtain government subsidies. Let them do all the research for you and show you how affordable health insurance can be, a service that's at no extra cost to you. Call now and learn your options to find affordable health insurance. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. 800-614-1242. Health Markets Insurance Agency is a DBA or assumed name of Inspire Insurance Solutions, Inc., which is a licensed insurance agency in all 50 states and D.C. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service availability varies by state.
Attention, if you've had hip replacement surgery and suffered any complications, you need to listen to this important legal alert. Major manufacturers have made billions of dollars available to award legal claims for defective hip implants. Thousands of these defective hip implants have been recalled by various manufacturers. If you've had hip surgery and suffered complications, you may be entitled to receive significant compensation to help you deal with your complications. You may be eligible to receive money to help with medical expenses, lost wages, and pain and suffering. Protect yourself by hiring an experienced trial attorney. Our partner law firms are experts in hip replacement surgery lawsuits. Find out now if you're eligible to receive any of the $2.5 billion hip settlement fund. Call now for free information. 800-296-1360. 800-296-1360. 800-296-1360. That's 800-296-1360.
Fanatics.com is the place to get your favorite licensed college football fan gear. It's also the place to win the hottest bowl tickets for the season. Pull out your phone and Shazam this ad now for your chance to win an all-inclusive bowl game experience for two. Plus $250 to deck yourself out in officially licensed gear from Fanatics. Inside, you'll also find Fanatics merchandise, apps, and more. If you want to be on the sidelines of the biggest bowl games, Shazam now. If you're a sports fan and you love your team, you gotta check out Fanatics.com. Fanatics is the best place for fan gear from the most trusted brands. Authentic fan gear from the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and NCAA college football and basketball. Jerseys, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, collectibles, and more. It's the world's largest collection of official fan gear from all the leagues, teams, and players you love. Everything officially licensed. Go to Fanatics.com for gear and show love for your teams this season. Fanatics. Love never loses.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard. Interesting show, a lot of different perspectives, and it's time for our regular weekly segment, Bust, Boom, and Hope, the bad, the good, and the hopeful in the economy, 2017, and the trillion-dollar sports business. First, Bust. This year's Sugar Bowl, notoriously known as one of college football's most popular bowl games, drew the smallest crowd since 1939. Oklahoma and Auburn, only 54,000 to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, the smallest one since TCU faced off against Carnegie Mellon in front of 44,000 at Tulane Stadium in New Orleans. Last year's game was played on New Year's Day between Ole Miss and Oklahoma State. 72,000. 41 bowl games, attendance not as important, but there are issues like this to try to resolve. Boom! USTA finally opened the brand new $60 million national campus in Orlando. 64-acre campus set in Lake Nona, meant to provide opportunities for newer players to brush shoulders with rising stars. The campus stakes out the industry's mission. Tennis participation generally increased 23% to 17 million in the past decade. Even before it opened, the industry group booked more than 100 events, ranging from a conference on the business of undersized courts to USTA's pro circuit events, mostly aimed at juniors. The first official collegiate matchup, January 21, Alabama and Michigan. Sounds like a great football game. And finally, hope. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar inches closer by the month. More formalized stadium plans, delivering Foster and Partners designs for the centerpiece stadium in Qatar. Soccer stadium planned to hold 80,000 spectators, named the Lusail Stadium. Being the centerpiece of the tournament, it's going to host the opening match as well as the closing ceremony. The company takes forward the schematic design for the internationally recognized landmark. The proposals will talk about integrating with neighboring Lusail City. The stadium represents one of the 8 venues constructed for the 2022 World Cup, including an advanced air conditioning system on the field to keep players cool. Now they've just got to see whether 2022 survives the scrutiny of the bid process and what happened a few years ago. Well, that's our show for today. We look forward to an incredible 2017, not only with the 17 predictions we've had before, but as we move forward to the playoffs, Super Bowl, NHL All-Star Game, and otherwise. Join us when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.